Hi, I'm Rowan Patigal, and you're watching the fourth of a series of demonstration videos for Symlabs Virtual Directory Server and LDAP Proxy. In this video, we will show how it is possible to use one of the bundled plugins to merge data stored in different branches on different repositories so that it appears as if all of the data is stored in a single branch on one virtual directory tree. We will be building on the configurations presented in the previous video demonstrations, and if you have not already watched these, we recommend that you do so before continuing with this demonstration. In the previous video, we used a virtual tree to consolidate data stored across multiple data repositories and to present it as if it were stored within separate branches on a single directory. While this solution may be sufficient to resolve authentication problems where you have a fair amount of flexibility for the configuration of your application, it will almost certainly fall short for many commercial applications. For most applications, the login page will look like this, offering only the options to enter a username and password. The underlying configuration for your application will then expect you to provide the details for a single resource against which to perform authentication. What we really need to completely resolve this common authentication problem is an ability to merge the data from each of the different branches so that all of the entries are accessible from within a single branch. Fortunately, this can be solved in a few simple steps using Symlabs LDAP Proxy or Virtual Directory Server. In this configuration, we have made a few minor amendments to the configuration instance that we used in the previous demonstration. Firstly, if we expand the listener and virtual tree nodes, you will see that we have created a second virtual entry for the organizational unit called All Users. However, unlike the other virtual entry, this one does not have any child nodes and doesn't seem to serve any obvious function. But if we expand the processing part of our configuration, we can also see that a processing stage called Merge Users has been added. This automatic stage includes the Merge Trees plugin, which comes bundled with DSGUI. The plugin has been configured to merge the entries stored in each of these backend DNs and to map the resulting information onto the OU equals all users node of our virtual tree. If we return to the main listener in our configuration, we can see that the Merge Users processing stage has been attached to the listener by looking at the Attach Stages tab. You will also notice that when making use of a virtual tree, it is possible to attach processing stages on either side of the virtual tree. That is to say, you may need the processing to occur where the client application accesses the virtual tree, or you may need the processing to occur after the virtual tree in relation to the back-end server groups. In this case, we are attaching the processing in the front of the virtual tree, as it will be something that the client application will trigger. Now that we've seen the configuration, let's have a look at how it actually works. Firstly, let's start the configuration instance by clicking on the Run button. Now, if I open up the LDAP browser again, I can enter the details required to access the virtual tree and connect. The browser opens, and we can see the root entry that we created for the virtual tree. When we expand this, we can see that there are two organizational units. The first is OU equals users, and when we expand it, we can see each of the mount points that we defined in our configuration. If we expand these, we can see that they are functioning correctly and the system is capable of presenting data from each of the different repositories as if it belongs to the same tree. More usefully, if we expand OU equals all users, it is possible to see that the Merge Trees plugin is merging entries from each of the back-end data repositories into a single branch that can be queried and used for authentication. Let's return to our intranet web application. If for some reason we were only able to configure the application to perform authentication against data stored in a single branch on one server, we could now configure the application to use the OU equals all users branch on our virtual tree and point the client application at the virtual directory server as its point of access. This would allow us to use a simple authentication form like this, as all of our users are stored in the same branch. Let's log in as A Bacon again. Now you can see that A Bacon is recognized as belonging to the all users branch and is able to access the details of any other member within the organization. We can clearly see that the data from each of the different back-end branches is being merged into a single branch in real time. To the client application, the data appears as if it is stored in one place, while in reality we have not been required to alter the way in which any of our data is stored within the existing infrastructure. In this video, we have used a very simplistic intranet application to illustrate how some software may not be easily able to accommodate your infrastructure, and how this can be easily solved using Symlabs LDAP Proxy or Virtual Directory Server. Naturally, the application that you might be looking at is likely to be a lot more complex, but the principle is the same. With Symlabs LDAP Proxy or Virtual Directory Server, you can remove one of the most common integration obstacles. Join us in the next video demonstration to see how easily you can integrate data stored in relational databases into your virtual tree for consumption by your client applications.